Welcome back, my sweet sisters of the mortal realm. This is See You Next Time. Today's jaunt is back out into the shady streets of those questions for atheists. For those who weren't here for the last trip, I'll mention once again that I'm not a strident anti-theist, but an agnostic atheist, just so we're all on the same page. Gnostic and agnostic deal with knowledge. Theist and atheist deal with belief. So, as an atheist, I don't believe in the existence of a deity, but as an agnostic, I don't claim to know whether one exists or not. On to the video. A word of warning to all the atheists watching this. We've been exposed. Pastor Alex has revealed, if an atheist offers you jam on toast, they will most likely write Satan on it and then spread it so that you don't know. Hashtag say no to atheist toast. But, as far as I know, we're still okay with the baking and the pizza. We're looking at questions from a bunch of different theists, but we're taking a chance. Many of these questions are deemed to be unanswerable. I wonder if they will be. Let's find out.
If you're an atheist, I'm about to put you in a corner right now.
Nobody puts baby in a corner.
Because I am going to ask you a very hard question, and you will not be able to answer it. I would be a very rich man if I got $1 for every time an atheist said these 3 words to me. Who made God?
It's telling how we jump straight to who created, as opposed to what or how.
But let me flip that question back on you, Mr. Atheist.
Please, Mr. Atheist is my father.
If you don't believe that God created you, the only other logical conclusion you can draw is that the universe created you.
This is not the only other conclusion. This is what's known as a false dichotomy. We could all be in a simulation. Fairies might have done it. Jimbo Jones, the travelling interdimensional fresh wines and urine salesman, might have fucked the cosmos into being.
So if you believe that the universe created you, who created the universe?
What an irritatingly smug twat in voice and vision. The fact is, we don't know, and it's this admission of ignorance that folk like this seem to have trouble with. The idea that we don't know how or even if the universe came into existence apparently gives them carte blanche to shove God into it. Of the people who know what they're talking about when it comes to big picture cosmology type business, a group I am not a member of, and Mr. Theist here couldn't even conceive of, there's a fair proportion who think that the universe is eternal and or cyclical. This idea does not rule out the possibility of a god, but it sure as shit doesn't require one.
Atheism, a view that constantly leads you to a dead end while questioning the universe.
Okay, quick review. Atheism is a single viewpoint on a single issue. Do you believe a god exists? Answer yes, and you're atheist. Answer anything else, including I don't know, and you're atheist.
While everything we see in the universe is actually evidence for accepting the creator, atheism ignores them.
Just look at the trees, dude.
We can talk about it very long, but today we will consider only 3 questions that atheists cannot answer. Question number 1. Where do these characteristics come from? It's an established rule that one cannot give what one doesn't have to another one.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the term established rule means in your head, but I'm pretty sure it translates to load of old arse or bollocks in old money.
For example, let's say there are only 100 white balls in a glass sphere. What is the chance of a red ball to be chosen from this sphere? Of course it's 0, right? No matter how long you wait, you will not get any, because there is no red ball inside the sphere anyway. Keep this example in mind. Let's consider a black pencil. Can you draw a rainbow with this pencil? No, because the pencil is in no color other than black. So naturally, a rainbow cannot be drawn.
Naturally.
What I mean is, you cannot give a feature you don't have to someone else. Now, I take a look at the universe and I see that everything is made of atoms. However, although atoms are ignorant, willless, lifeless and blind, deaf and dumb creatures having no cognitive senses, when they come together and occur to us as a human being, we see that the man made of them carries all these features. So, the basic question is, how can atoms give these properties to human beings while they lack all of them? As they cannot be the true sources, there must be someone else holding these attributes. Because the atom that cannot see cannot create the seeing eye. The atom that cannot hear cannot make the hearing ear.
The atom that cannot fuck cannot make the fuckity fuck.
The atom without life cannot form the human who has life. The human being has a variety of feelings while atoms don't have any. And all of these things are repeatedly happening every day, even every second. So isn't it necessary to accept that they are under the command of a creator who has attributes such as knowledge, will, power, life, sight, hearing, and compassion behind these atoms? As we said, one cannot give what one doesn't have to another one, so there must be a creator.
What a bizarre argument. There are things called emergent properties. For example, the device you're watching this video on now has various materials in it. Polymers, metals, silicon chips. Individually, the atoms have no ability to produce images and sounds. Yet, put them together in certain configurations, they enable people to create, distribute, and watch all sorts of media. Though we don't know how exactly these emergent properties work in humans, the fact that we're made of atoms does not by any means lead to the conclusion that God done it.
Second question, who is the judge, who is the prisoner? If everyone is a soldier, a commander is required. If everyone is a prisoner, a judge is needed. It's a rule that you cannot be the judge and the prisoner at the same time. What does this mean? You know that a room cannot be dark and light at the same time, or a paper cannot be dry or wet at the same time. These are some examples confirming that one cannot hold two opposite attributes at the same time, because carrying two attributes opposite to each other is a contradiction. Being a judge and being a prisoner are two opposite states. If you are one of them, it's impossible to be the other. Now, think of a building which is being built with bricks. If you do not accept the architect to build it, there will be a contradiction to accept that bricks are building this on their own, because in this case, the bricks will be both prisoners and judges of each other at the same time, since all the bricks...
Shut the fuck up. Okay, so logic does state that A cannot equal not A. That's fine. The rest of this is incoherent bollocks. Judges can go to prison, soldiers can follow their own commands. Yeah, I think there are more fundamental reasons that bricks can't build things on their own. Let's start with the fact that they're fucking bricks. You know, inanimate objects made of clay, or other composites. This is a baffling argument that is just nothing, and even if we could track it back, the exact same balloxical reasoning says that Allah cannot be the bricks and the architect either. Fuck me.
Question number 3. What is the real reason? Imagine that we see a train and a baby is pulling this huge train with a rope in his hand. Nobody would believe this, so they would look for a hidden cause behind it, right? Because there are no attributes such as sufficient power, knowledge, and will in a baby.
This is such a weird analogy.
No doubt, another resource is required. In fact, we see gaps between causes and effects in the universe every day. While the causes are so simple, the results are extremely complex. The emergence of huge trees from a tiny seed.
With you?
The emergence of a magnificent peacock from a simple egg.
Yeah.
The emergence of a complex human from some simple water.
Sorry, what?
The emergence of a complex human from some simple water.
Emergence of humans from water? I think you need to go and take some remedial biology classes. Stats.
Show us some examples of the gap between causes and results. So it's necessary to look for another source behind the view.
This is personal incredulity mixed with a literal God of the Gaps argument. Unmasked and unashamed. Lovely production values, though.
All right, I've got 3 more questions for atheists. Here is number 1. Do you believe that our beliefs ought to be proportioned to the evidence? So should we only really believe something if we've got evidence in favor of it?
I think that's reasonable. There's places here and there where the rules may be a bit bendy, or even break from certain viewpoints. But yeah, in general, using evidence to determine if something's true seems like common sense.
Number 2 is, if we could verify that some miracle actually occurred, would that give us a reason to think that God exists? And again, this is contingent on whether or not we could actually verify that the miracle happened.
Okay. If we can verify that a miracle occurred. I'm going to assume he's talking about bona fide, complete suspension of physics type miracles, as opposed to your girlfriend actually turning up on time, or say J.D. Vance not being a sycophantic cockwomble with shit stains on his face from having his tongue up Trump's ring. If, say, we could verify someone walking out on the surface of the sea for a mile, or healing incurable diseases at will, I'd be seriously impressed. However, it's still another step to linking that with a being of any sort, another to any sort of divinity, and yet another to drawing the line to your God in particular. But yes, regardless, it would be 100% worth investigating.
All right, number 3, and this is my final question. If you're an atheist that cares about truth and thinks that we should proportion our beliefs to the evidence, But then you also think that we've got this unique way to verify whether or not God exists through studying miracles. How many of the millions of miracle reports throughout history have you actually deeply investigated?
Millions of miracles. I've certainly not investigated or even heard of that many. I personally have not done a great deal of investigation beyond the odd Google rabbit hole, and I'm pretty certain that I'm not the best person to get into the nitty-gritty of it. Those I have looked into tend to fall into a handful of categories. The miracle of the sick or injured person not dying for reasons which are not immediately apparent. Strangely enough, those tend to be vague and anecdotal and don't come with a full medical history attached. It's weird. Then there's the miracle of the dancing sun or moon splitting in two or other physical phenomena which appear to a relatively small number of people. These tend to lack the subsequent reports of the devastating effects on the planet which you would expect to happen if they were true. I'm no cosmologist, but the sun jumping out of its relative orbit with the Earth would probably end all life as we know it. The miracle of the lack of understanding of science. When Notre Dame burnt down, for example, there were loads of pictures of an incredibly photogenic gold cross which stood tall in spite of the flames. The flames burning at around 600 degrees Celsius, with the melting point of gold at just north of 1,000. The miracle of the stories in old books which can't possibly be investigated. And my favourite, the miracles of the marking on bits of toast that look a little bit like a face if you squint, or the miracles of the people putting bits of blood on a statue just to gain a bit of press attention. Point is that many of these can't be investigated, and those that can, at best, return a verdict of insufficient data. Or, no, you obviously can't live off just sunlight for 10 years, you fucking muppet. The fact is, as time moves on and our understanding of science improves, the rate at which miracles are being knocked out falls rather rapidly. Miraculous, huh?
Now, when the Supreme Court made the decision about Roe v. Wade, we were told that by the left, including many of them secular atheists, doesn't matter what the Supreme Court says, women have the right to abortion. What do you mean right? What are you appealing to exactly when you talk about this mystical right that exists? You're not appealing to God. What are you appealing to?
If not God, then who? I don't know, people with a fucking brain in their nut, maybe?
If you can only appeal to man, if you can only appeal to the government, then it's up to them what the rights are. And it doesn't make any sense. If the government says you have a right to this, it doesn't make any sense to say, no, that's not true. What do you mean it's not true?
Appealing to the government? I mean, sure, in a legal sense, but that's not what you're talking about. Appealing to common decency, you fuckwit.
According to you, a right by definition is simply whatever the government says. This is a real problem that I don't think anyone on the left has even attempted, or very few people on the left have even attempted to confront or deal with or wrestle with. And it just makes everything they say about human rights totally meaningless.
Oh, you're a fucking moron. Matt Walsh, everybody.
You know, Jesus.
Why do you hate Jesus?
He's just not real.
He's not real?
No, he's not real.
Why is he not real?
Because he's a fictional character.
Is it fictional?
You've made him up.
Yeah. So I think this is a special case. I'm guessing this girl is angry at a religion she's just gotten away from, and she's had 1 pint too many. Maybe a pint of whiskey. In fairness, though, she makes a very coherent point. She hates Jeebus because he does not real. I think she's channeling someone who's tremendously handsome, famous, and good at the sex.
Are you aware that you're fulfilling a biblical prophecy? What, the one about being the most handsome, famous, and good at the sex person?
Perhaps she's got into his whiskey store too.
So just to recap, Jesus isn't real, and he's a fictional character. I have a quick question for all the atheists out there, unbelievers. If he's not real, and he's a fictional character, why do you hate him so much? Better yet, how can you hate someone who isn't real?
Oh, it's the smugness that gets me.
Smudge and arrogant.
I think you mean smug.
Arrogance.
Michael, I'm just trying
And
to...
there's our smudgeness.
And the way she's taken a single unhinged person who's clearly going through something, and that's like, A, this applies to everyone she disagrees with, and B, that it's some fantastic point that only she could have thought of. I am a fan of red hair, though, so swings and roundabouts.
Atheists, a question. If I could prove to you that Christianity is true, would you believe?
Yeah. You give me cast iron proof that Big Daddy God and Jeebus exist in reality, then of course I'm gonna believe it. Much like I believe I'm sitting on a chair. I don't think we really have a choice in these things.
Really? Would you believe?
What did I just say?
Would you commit your life to Jesus Christ?
Whoa, that's a hell of a bait and switch. Believing something exists and worshipping it and committing your life to it are not the same thing.
I think most of you are saying, no way, and that's telling. It's not about proof. It's not about evidence. It's about your heart.
Why would I commit my life to this psychotic, genocidal, rapey twat? Yeah, this is a real non sequitur. Going from believing something to worshipping it is a big step.
You don't want God. You don't want God's morality.
No, of course I don't want God's morality. He's mental. He's more than happy to wipe out humanity just on a whim. He's happy to endorse slavery, rape, genocide. And while of course I'm a massive fan of those things, I'm not going to worship someone for it.
You don't want God to be your Lord.
Maybe I could be persuaded to let God be my daddy. Ugh, I just creeped myself out there. Sorry.
It's not about proof. It's about your heart. If you had been there, if you had seen Jesus Christ risen from the dead,
and you were there,
you wouldn't believe. You'd explain it away because you don't want him. That's the real issue. So no evidence, no argument can persuade you. You brush it all away. I know because I was like you. I was an atheist, but the evidence for God, real evidence, the cosmological argument, the teleological argument, the moral argument, these ganged up on me, and I believed.
So hang on, you're an atheist, and then you heard a bunch of terrible arguments that at best lead you to deism, and definitely not to Christianity, and that convinced you that Jeebus is your homeboy. Interesting.
Are you willing to follow the evidence? It will lead you to God.
I'm not sure you know what evidence is, mate. Well, what do you know? Turns out we could answer those questions. Who'd have thunk it? I think it's been interesting, and we've had some really weird takes. Such is life in the darkened recesses of the internet. If you've enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up, leave an insightful comment, maybe subscribe. And if you missed the last installment, there's probably a link on the screen somewhere. And remember, most importantly, it's generally frowned upon to talk about religion in your 9-to-5 office job. If you're an atheist, you can neatly circumvent these societal pressures by eating babies at your desk. This way, you can air your lack of belief in a non-confrontational way, and it'll help you find like-minded friends to share a newborn and a beer with. See you next time.